Well, thanks for joining me again, Taurus. It's March 2020. I'm Dadhichi from astrology.com.au. I'd like you to keep your eye on your ruling planet here right now. This position of Venus is very important, and its transit especially is quite significant. Given that it's been in your 12th house here for a little while, which is the low-key part of your horoscope, but that's starting now to change, and you can see that that's the case because of its close proximity to Uranus. That's going to shake things up for you a little bit, and because Uranus is in your sun sign now, I'm not going to dwell on that too much. We've talked about that quite a bit in the past, but suffice to say that this conjunction, there taking place on the 5th of March, will start to impact this area of your horoscope very, very strongly, and also this area of your horoscope. These two areas of your horoscope are the areas of love and romance. And it's also important to note that because the Sun and Neptune are transiting here in your 11th house of friendship and sociability, the waxing moon, as you can see over here, making its way to your 5th house of love affairs, is very important. It's going to be a full moon here, and here you see that lovely trine aspect that starts the process. Very good for your emotional and romantic affairs. And then here, I would say around the 10th, that full moon just blazing its energies into your 11th house and your 5th house. Be careful here, the Neptune conjunction makes you rather idealistic, expecting maybe a little bit too much. And here the moon moves to the 6th house of service and workplace activities on the 11th. So that takes the pressure down a little bit. Could I call it pressure? I guess it's maybe overexcitability having this conjunction here. You notice there's a few tough aspects here around the 11th and 12th when moon makes a square to this 9th house, which is your ideals. Sometimes these relationships blind you to the reality of the situation. That could be the case when this idealistic combo here is met by the sobering moon square Saturn that we saw there around the 12th. The 8th house is a house of intimacy, shared resources, personal transformation, death, annuities, taxation, shared resources that have to do with wills and legacies too. All of those areas are covered by the transit of the moon here. It's a short transit, and that takes place around the 15th and the 16th. You notice, well, I should have pointed it out, Mercury had been retrograde up here in your 10th house of career and moved back here around the middle of the month. Early to the middle of the month, it starts to move back into its normal direction, which is good for your relationships. Every planet does well here in this 11th house of your horoscope. You'll notice also around this time, after the middle of the month, your ruling planet gets a bit more comfortable in itself, having moved away from the disruptive forces of Uranus, and also still in some very nice aspects here to Jupiter and Pluto. That makes you intense, but it makes you lucky. This is one of the most favourable combinations. And also Venus in this 1st house is giving you that greater self-esteem and a sense of feeling better about yourself and what you have to present to others. Now the March 21st ingress is interesting. It takes place here in your 12th house. Sun for you is the ruler of your 4th house here, which is your family and domestic circumstances. And also the Sun has a specific rulership over your mother, the maternal influences in your life. Being in the 12th house can show some losses or some privation, suffering. There could be some problems with the health of your mother or someone close to you. That's likely. Around this new moon period here, the dark moon there on the 23rd, 24th. And so the new moon here is taking place in your 12th house of charitable acts. So this could be a period where you look at revamping your attitude to others, how you help them, how you serve them. we see too that idealism hasn't gone unnoticed. Even at the beginning of the reading, I mentioned this idealism that is very strongly associated with Neptune. You have Mercury here in the sign of Neptune, Pisces, debilitated, and that's also showing a link to your second house of finance. So the way you are dealing with your friends, the way you are handling money, all of this is covered by this 12th house of expenses, charitable acts, spirituality. And there's an over-sentimentality around this latter part of the month when we see the moon here conjoined with your ruler. The moon is the third ruler of your mind, your thinking. This combination is quite sensitive. And with these other components that we've been talking about, that is likely to make you an easy target for people that need some help. Of course, you can't avoid helping close family members that are in need, but even there you have to be a little bit careful, Taurus, that you draw a line in the sand and get some commitment for payback, especially if it's of a financial nature, which is shown here by the placement of the moon in the second house. Another point I wanted to mention, which is why I stopped the animation, is your best planet, Saturn, which rules your 9th house and 10th house, here moving into the career sector. A welcome move away from the triangular position, this 9th house, which may have put a more serious tone on your belief systems, your educational pursuits. It's still not great here in the 10th house, but we do see a movement and a shift, an important one. And this is a more serious element to your horoscope, which is going to be with you over the next year or two, because it takes around 2 years for Saturn to transit through a specific sign of the zodiac. Here we get a bit of an unsavory feel from the Mars Saturn. There's a lot of frustration. You're going to have to wait for me to give you a bit more insight into that next month, but Mars will cross over Saturn, creating a bit of a crisis. You may be feeling that even now towards the end of March, but fortunately you've got this favourable influence from both of these planets, so Venus, your ruler, offsets this to some extent. Take a look at some of the additional stuff I've written for you there at astrology.com.au. We've got the monthly synopsis of the aspects, which you can use as an adjunct to what I'm saying here. This is basically skimming the surface. I always invite the viewers to come in and have a personal reading with me. Then we can juxtapose this against your rising sign, the specific time that you were born. And then I also apply some of the Vedic principles that I'm partial to. The daily, monthly, yearly readings are there. I've got the whole year in focus for you. Please subscribe. Don't forget to join me again next month and have a good one. Take care. Bye-bye for now.